Brilliant. So we are live. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Online Events Made Simple Live. Bit of a different one today. It's actually on Friday instead of Wednesday. So hopefully none of you come to our page on Wednesday. Thank you for joining. Remember, always feel free to use the chat box if you have any comments, questions you'd like to ask us. Today, I'm joined with Rob Hopkin from Access. Rob, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you. Well, pleasure to be with you today. So, yeah, I'm Rob. I'm from Axis, who are a digital facilitation platform in the events industry and more broadly are sort of meetings and workshops. And yeah, lovely to be with you today.
Super busy, and we were literally saying before we jumped on, it's so nice and warm today. I hope you're all having such a fab week. I think no matter where you are if you're in the UK, it's been so rainy and miserable. So the fact it's coming up to bank holiday and the sun's here, I mean, yeah, it's such a blessing.
It is. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's so lovely. I can actually see the sunlight bouncing off like your room. It's so lovely.
Yes.
Very jealous. So yeah, tell us more about Access. I know some people might have heard about them before. It sounds quite like broad, and there's probably a lot to it. So tell us more about what you do and the kind of services you offer.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is I've spent nearly 16 years as a management consultant, facilitating meetings and workshops. So getting groups of people together, using things like design thinking to help them collaborate effectively and solve problems.
Yeah.
The sort of kernel of what Axis is it's trying to make it simple and easy for anyone to be an awesome facilitator. So if you look at when people get together and they're going to collaborate, whether it's in a 30-minute meeting or a 2-day workshop or as part of a breakout within an event, if that goes well, it's productive, everyone gets to have their voice heard, you get some really meaningful, substantive content, you get genuine innovation. That's genuinely driven by the quality of the facilitation. And so what we've done is we've looked at what makes a great facilitator, how they structure a session, the right activities, and then how they run it. And we bottled that up and digitized it and then make it available so people can facilitate themselves.
Super interesting. And yeah, how long has the company been running? Is it COVID born? Has it been going before COVID? And if it was before COVID, how did that impact you? Because many of our guests that come on have kind of said the challenges they faced this year. I mean, you're still here, the company's still running, which is always an amazing sign.
Yeah, so we're very much pre-COVID. We've been in and about the kind of meetings, workshop space. So within some big corporates and government organizations. And then, for us, for COVID, because we're a digital solution that allows you to collaborate effectively, whether you're face-to-face or you're remote, we had a real interest in applying our platform into the events sector, right? Because people wanted to make their virtual events more engaging, more inclusive, something substantive that supported that Zoom fatigue effect. So from that sense, it's supported the business. It's been, I think for all of us, it's been quite difficult personally, right? I've got 3 young kids, and homeschooling was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, but, I've heard. Luckily, I didn't need to go through that, but I've heard, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, and in terms of the team, and we've sort of grown. We've grown the team in a fully remote environment. So interviewing people remotely, onboarding them remotely, and it's actually worked pretty well. People have adapted to that. I think as now things revert to a degree of normality, hopefully, fingers crossed. Let's see. We're gonna maintain a hybrid kind of model of working, right? I think that's probably the future, to give some people the flexibility they want.
Absolutely. LinkedIn, all I see every single day, I always check the news stories on the right hand side, and it's always about working from home, what employees want. I love working from home. I was saying the other day, I just love the freedom of just being able to wear your pajama bottoms and no one knows.
Yes.
Being able to make your nice warm lunch instead of having to take something to work. So I actually love that. And I think it's really great that Access was actually hiring, because so many companies have struggled with financially, and so many people lost their jobs. So I think that's really great that you're actually expanding in such a, I guess, difficult time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's given us the opportunity to do some interesting stuff as well, because we were fortunate to receive government innovation funding, particularly looking at how the events sector, sort of corporate type events, could be made more inclusive and sustainable, virtual ways of working. And so we've been able to run that over the last few months with some great partner organizations, which has been which has been really interesting actually, because I think we are seeing a real shift in how people collaborate and engage and interact, and I think that is going to persist, right?
Absolutely.
People are obviously going to go back to the office and back to physical events, but there's going to be some blend, and it is going to feel and look different than it has previously.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I know you touched on collaboration there. I think collaboration this year has been massive, not just in events, but everyone, like, you've seen so many like acquisitions, mergers, so many companies now actually coming together. I think a lot of people are starting to realize that not everyone's their competitor, but you can actually build and partner with each other in a more friendly way than competing, I think.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mean, I think that's true. Technology more broadly is it's about ecosystems and open integration, and people who want to be monolithic and take the whole thing, that's probably not going to work so well. So totally agree with that.
Yeah,
totally agree with
definitely. And you touched on engagement. Engagement is something that, funnily enough, comes up in every single podcast. I think it's because it plays on so many people's minds. Virtual events, the engagement is so different. I mean, it doesn't even need to be a virtual event. A virtual meeting or a call like this is so different. We're not actually in person. You can't make proper body language and things like that. So how do you think technology has actually impacted engagement? Do you think it's impacted it in a good way? I think now, a year on, we're kind of seeing the things that we can actually do to improve it at virtual events.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, our whole take is, and this is part of our research, is a real model of engagement, a spectrum from, I'm here because I have to be, but I don't, I'm kind of ambivalent, not really involved, all the way to seeing a meeting or event as an opportunity for personal enrichment and transformation and change. And I think that's where, any meeting, right? I mean, you're taking people's time, which is a precious thing. You want to make the most of it, right? You want to feel like it was worth it. And one of the things we've observed in our research is that a big barrier to that is whether it's in person or over a conference call, video call. If you're relying upon just participating through voice, and you have a large group of people, in fact, any more than 5 people, we found that 20% of the people on the call will take up 80% of the airtime.
Wow.
Right? Which means that a small number of people are ostensibly engaged because it's them that's talking or discussing with a subset of the other people. But for everyone else, they're not really truly involved in the process.
Yeah.
And so one of the big things that we're looking at is how Axis as a platform can allow people to contribute digitally in parallel with any voice-based conversation and discussion, which means that everyone has the opportunity to share their thoughts and their ideas, which they can do anonymously, very simple and easy to do. All the decision making is made collectively, very open, democratic voting processes, structured collaboration, which is inherently more engaging because everyone has the opportunity to participate.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point, and see the results of their contributions flow through.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're very much, it's a voice-based conversation, the problem is that a very small number of people will dominate that process to the detriment of everyone else.
That is so
and if you look at our research, it's there's important gender views on that. We've done a lot of work on accessibility and implications for those living with a variety of different disabilities and their ability to engage and participate. And I think that's a really important angle.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. And I know you just touched on some voices are heard more than others, but I think when it is a voice-based platform or a voice-based event or something to do with voices, those that are more, I guess, shy and introverts, which I'm not, so I would probably take over. But people who are shy, they kind of are left behind almost. And I think it's so interesting. I've been to many virtual events and virtual meetings where the chat box is so dead. And I think it takes one comment to then get everyone engaged, literally one question, and everyone will be bouncing off each other. I think it's just that people are still kind of shy, I think, at knowing how to engage and knowing what to say in the right way at virtual events and virtual meetings.
I think that's so true, right? I mean, you need something to kick the process off, and we're all social creatures, and if we see other people doing something, then we're more likely to do it. And once you get started, it really goes. I think chat's important, and then we're looking to build upon that. And I think you can have and it's fundamentally down to principle, like diversity of thought and contribution is so important. Like there's reams of research that show that diversity is this incredibly powerful thing at solving problems, innovating, it's like the biggest, best tool we have is to have diverse teams solve things. And yet, what's the point of having a diverse group of people if you aren't listening to them all, right? You're listening to
so
two of them who are probably thinking the same things, right? You're going to be much more susceptible to groupthink. You're going to miss all that great stuff. And so, that for us is the passion is, if you've got 10 people on a call, why are only 2 of them dominating? Because that means you've got 8 of them who probably aren't engaged, and you're missing the power and the multiplicative effect of those people joining that process. And that's that's the fundamental principle of what we've built, is to realize the full potential, the collective wisdom of all those people to solve whatever problem it is. And we've done some great stuff in the events industry. Ran some workshops with the BVEP, the overall trade association, looking at inclusion and diversity on our platform, again, which allowed people to have the opportunity on what is a very emotive and sometimes challenging topic that people need to discuss out. And we got some really kind of honest perspectives, and it was really powerful, right? And I think that power of bringing people together and collaborating like that it can be an awesome thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And actually, going back to virtual events and virtual meetings, I think that has almost broken down the barrier for those that are shy, or those that are a bit apprehensive to say things at live events. It completely breaks that down, because you're almost, they say keyboard warrior. You're not, but you're behind a keyboard. So, you can you'll probably mention things in a chat box or something that you might not actually have the power or
absolutely
the nerves to do. Because I know I've seen so many people at live events, and you can tell they probably want to put their hand up and ask something, but everyone's actually listening. But when you're behind a keyboard, technically no one really knows who you are, so you can kind of say anything without getting nervous.
Yeah, I think if you look at a group of 100 people, the proportion of them that feel comfortable putting their hand up in a big room full of people and asking a question is pretty small. And I think you're right. It has opened up that opportunity if we use technology in the right way. Because equally, if that chat window just becomes a black hole to which people enter stuff in, and then there's no response, there's no feedback, it doesn't go anywhere. Then what was the point? So I think that's another thing that we see as important, is when you have an event, an inclusive engagement shouldn't feel like something that's tapped on. It should be fundamental, right? If you're going to take people's time to do a breakout and solve something, do something with the output, right? I mean, that's a unique opportunity to have those people together to make use of that, right? And that to me is a fundamental principle, is really thinking as events of moments of connection and change. And particularly, we're very interested in those breakout sessions, right? When you take an event of hundreds and you get them into smaller groups.
So that's the time then, isn't it, to really shine? And if you have something to say, that is when you would say it. Because I like to think I'm quite confident, but in a room of hundreds, thousands of people, I would not put my hand up.
Yeah. And I think even if even if the people who do, it's such a small proportion of the total. So that higher level of engagement, of actually influencing and changing, is only experienced by a very small subset. Whereas if you do breakout-based approach, you're using the platforms like Axis that allow that to be inclusive and everyone to get involved. Suddenly you're spreading that higher level of engagement across everyone, or everyone who wants to participate in that process. And that's pretty transformational.
And obviously we've talked about event tech quite a lot. How do you think people's understanding has changed? So I know we've kind of discussed, I think engagement's kind of improving and people are now understanding what you can do, but do you think people's understanding of event tech itself and the benefits it has improved or has changed? Because it's definitely something that comes up on my LinkedIn daily now, of people finding new articles, new blogs, new videos.
So I think it's a hugely matured, right? And because of the necessity, right? People have had to do that. I think there's still a reality that technology makes people nervous, right? I mean, I think we've all had experiences where technology has been a barrier to things working well. I mean, gosh, internet connectivity can just be a nightmare, because we're all at home.
Out of your hand.
Exactly. I mean, I've got my 5G router next to me for when the broadband goes down and you're switching between networks, and it's stressful, right?
My computer actually crashed just before this, and it's things like that you just cannot control. Like, it's completely out of your hands.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think there's still that nervousness, and almost because it's, in a physical event, you feel like you can control for most things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas technology is this kind of black box that you don't really know exactly how it works. And when it doesn't work, you're like, oh my gosh. So I think there's still a lot of fear of technology. And I think actually that is a barrier. I think people stick to what they know and has worked.
Yeah.
And fear complexity. And so there needs to be a bit of leap of faith to say it's worth taking on a bit more risk and exposing yourself to new technologies because the rewards are worth it.
Yeah.
And I think that will start to happen over time. And then, look, the technology will mature as well, right? And therefore it will become more robust.
And even internet, I mean, every year now you're seeing so many different internets. I think we have such a basic one, so it does cut out. So I'm still thinking maybe I should get the better one if this virtual event thing's, going to carry on. Always, with technology, there's so much room for improvement. There always will be, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think you'll continue to see innovation. And I think the big thing is going to be around hybrid, right? So how does technology get blended into events that are both physical and virtual in a way that gives a level playing field and allows, because I mean, the most exciting thing for me about virtual has been the infinite scalability at basically zero marginal cost. Absolutely. So events that, when we talk about accessibility and inclusion, by removing the cost of participation, you're suddenly opening up to people who, and the cost of travel and all those things, you're opening up to a huge number of people's. Yeah, exactly. Which is hugely powerful. So I think if we can maintain the balance between the two, the scalability of virtual, but then with the, clear advantages of things being physical as well and live, that's going to be a really, really, really powerful position.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And we always like in these podcasts to talk about, the realistic things. I mean, virtual events are great, event technology is great, but every company has gone through their challenges. I mean, we definitely have, like my computer crashing, and once on the podcast, it fully shut down. We always go through these challenges. What challenges did Axis face this year? Did you kind of struggle? I mean, you're hiring, so that's really great, but I'm sure you kind of come across some barriers thinking like, oh God, what are we going to do?
Yeah, so no. I mean, most definitely. I mean, I think the biggest challenge has been everyone has experienced it differently, right? Because everyone has different circumstances,
absolutely,
and different needs and whatever. And just being cognizant of that and giving people, adjusting things to allow people to respond to their new realities. And yeah, it does make things challenging at times. But I think, we were very clear about giving people the freedom to choose how they adapted to work around it. And that's certainly that I've personally had to do as well. And yeah, I've just been really, I've been amazed actually at how everyone has adapted to it.
Yeah,
it is an amazing thing, like how adaptable people are, and then to keep morale going, right? Because we've instituted, we've always had like social events at work, but obviously in a physical nature. But then how to take that virtual and maintain the level of engagement
absolutely
in those social events, because
it's hard, I think
it is hard, particularly as the if you're a team who've worked together in person for years and then you go virtual, but if you're a new team who, half the people have never actually met in person,
so weird, isn't it?
Like that's a different thing. Like, and so we've had to be, and the team have been awesome at this, being much more creative about those social events.
Yeah.
To make it easier, because when people are like have known each other for a long time, you can just have a bit of a chat, but if you need to bring, so I think I'd really like to see that as well, that just this is a social innovation almost to create a tight-knit team.
Absolutely. I mean, it definitely sounds like you're smashing it. You're hiring, there's new people, you've managed lockdown, so that's amazing. How are you bouncing back from the pandemic? So what kind of projects do you have on at the moment? I'm sure you have some exciting things coming up.
Yeah. So we finished our research piece, and we'll be publishing that shortly, which hopefully will be really interesting for people to read and understand on inclusive and sustainable events. And then we're doing a whole new relaunch of our product, which is looking pretty cool. So I'm really, really excited about that. And then we've got some really exciting new customers actually. doing some pretty cool stuff with it. And we'll be relaunching all our brand and our website. And we're going to have some great case studies of things that people have done through the lockdown in different virtual ways of working. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting time.
Yeah, you have so much on. I just love hearing positive stories, knowing that you've made it through. I've seen a lot of companies now rebranding. I think, lockdown, it probably hit them thinking, we can do better, we can improve this. I've seen so many actually in the past week. So it's nice knowing, you're going to be rebranding, changing your services. Yeah, super exciting. It's been so lovely chatting, Rob. I'm hitting the 20-minute mark. I said just before this, I ramble so much. So I can't believe how fast it goes. But yeah, it's been so nice speaking. Where can people come and find you if they want to find out more about yourself or find out more about Axis?
Absolutely. Just stick Axis Workshops into Google and we'll come up. And then, you can get in touch, have a play with the product. And yeah, always delighted to speak to people. So yeah, really, really love to speak to you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on today. And thank you to everyone who tuned in. If you've got any questions for Rob, then feel free to reach out to him or put them in the chat box and he can go and read them. Stay tuned next week for a very special episode that's coming up. And we will see you all shortly. Have a fab bank holiday if you're in the UK.
Awesome. Thank you.